The Order of St. Hadrian initiated the Frames Oral History of Malawian People Living in Manchester, shortened Frames Heritage Malawi project. It ran from January to November 2019. On 16th November 2019, we had the end of project event. It was an exciting day. Here are some of the activities and talks that were there on the day.
So I'll just call out Dr. Charles Kachitsa just to give us his remarks.
Thank you so much, the manager of the ceremony. It's so nice to see all of you, and I should also recognize the various eminent people in our community who are with us today. There is Dr. Bell, for example, who is the Lord Lieutenant of Greater Manchester, meaning she represents the Queen in Manchester, and the husband, Mr. Leyman, they are just there. And also there is, I have Pipi from another part of Africa, Congo. She works with various charitable organizations, so she just came to be with us today to support us. And then I have Chris Payton, who's always been there at our various events like the youth seminar, and Chris is there with, of course, his colleague. They are always together. Thank you so much for coming. And everyone else, including my own bishop, I should recognize you, Bishop Chipaliwali. I know we had Archbishop Agama, but he had to go early because he's just recovering from an operation, so he couldn't stay for a long time. But those of you who were here earlier on, I believe you saw him. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I hope you are having a wonderful afternoon. The Frames Oral History of Malawian People Living in Manchester, which was shortened to Frames Heritage Malawi project under the organization, the Order of St. Hadrian, this year looked at the subject of wedding ceremonies and marriage, especially in the context of Malawians living in the UK. And perhaps with a fusion of other cultures, because we recognize that there are some Malawians who have closed boundaries and married to other people from other cultures. With funding from the National Heritage Rotary Fund, we collected oral history by interviewing 30 Malawians, in some cases as a couple. These people narrated their understanding of wedding ceremonies, marriage negotiations in the, again, Malawian cultural context. We also looked at engagement party, so-called chinkhoswe in Malawi, how bride price, or some call it lobola, dowry in English, is negotiated. We looked at the advice that parents, especially Malawian parents, give to their children. And interestingly, we looked also, or we asked people about the subject that our chinkhoswe this afternoon tackled, use of social media. When someone is looking for a life partner, how they should go about it. We also sought from the respondents what they think about someone marrying people from a different culture or from a different race, or indeed from a different faith? Are there any things that one should look for? Are there anything that one should, first of all, find out if they are crossing their culture, race, or faith? We asked people that we interviewed about all these things, some of which you will see when we will be launching the video documentary. As all this was going on, our mind was always on the beneficiary of the whole project, and that is the youth. We felt that carrying out a project like this one will have positive effects on how our Malawian youth interpret marriage. We thus involve the youth and children in various activities so that they feel ownership of the project. For instance, we had a 3-day web development seminar, which was followed by a fine arts seminar, in which the youth also were taught the history of Malawi, presented by our keynote speaker for today, who I'm going to introduce. To the success of the project, I would like to most profoundly thank the project management committee, who worked and supported me, especially as a link to the community. And this management committee for the project was made up of the following people, who maybe I'll call to come forward so that you see them. First of all, it was Elder Alekaliza. Maybe you can come forward so that people should see you. And then we have the manager of this event, Mr. Chiwi Temba Sikwese, and Mr. Malimbika Katsalira. If you can also come forward. The two ladies have given apologies. They would have been with us today, but because of other commitment, they couldn't be here. These are Shaloni Kubalon Drovo and Mrs. Patuma Stamboli. I would like to thank you so much for making this project a success. Thank you so much. Can we give them a round of applause? All right, you can sit down. Thank you so much. In addition, I had also support from my family, who put up with me, working all the hours and sometimes asking for things from them mostly without pay. My wife, Mary, who is there, thank you so much. And I had also Mrs. Chimpango, who is not here, but she gave massive support. She gave massive support, and she's the one who conducted most of the interviews. I would also like to thank the Manchester Library and Manchester Museum. They said they will send a representative, but maybe somewhere we have that representative. As project director and director of the Order of St. Hadrian, Archbishop Agama has been a pillar behind all this undertaking, giving necessary direction and guidance. In fact, his love of Malawi is so immense that he championed the birth of this project so that Malawian children should benefit. I would like at this juncture to thank all who contributed to this project, especially those people who opened their homes so that we could conduct the 30 oral interviews, some of which were video shootings. To all, I would like to say thank you on behalf of the project management team and directors of St. Hadrian. And I would also like to thank all of you because you have made this project to be a success by coming and gracing this occasion when we are celebrating the end of the project, which is ending this month end. As the manager of the ceremony has said, or maybe indicated, ladies and gentlemen, one of the duties that I'll need to perform this afternoon is to introduce our keynote speaker for this afternoon. Our keynote speaker, Dr. Harvey Kwiyani, originated from Malawi some years ago. He stayed for several years in the USA before relocating to the UK. He teaches theology, missiology, and leadership courses at several places in the US, Europe, and Africa, but currently is based at Liverpool Hope University as a lecturer where he teaches African theology. He founded and continues to be the general editor of African Missiology. He is also author of several books, including such titles as Sent Forth, Africa Missionary Work in the West. Another one, Mission Shaped Church in a Multicultural World. And also the book for children, or focused on children, Our Children Need Roots and Roots. We are therefore, this afternoon, privileged to have Dr. Harvey Kwiyani come and address us for the Frames Heritage Malawi project. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please help me to welcome Dr. Kwiyani as he comes forward to give us the keynote address. Dr. Kwiyani.
Hello. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me today. Bishop, nice to see you again. I'm seeing some faces that I've not seen in many years. Nice to see you all. I have 15 minutes, which means I don't have too much time to talk about many other things, so we get straight to business. When you talk about migration, which is really what brings many of us here today, when you talk about migration, it's always a difficult topic. It's difficult because our identities are usually tied into our homes, our lands, such that in the case of, say, Britain, after many decades of migrating from Britain to the rest of the world, we have them in Malawi, we have them in Zimbabwe, we have them all around the world. And when things begin to turn at the end of the colonial empires, 1940s, 1950s, and people begin to emerge from the former colonies and have to come and work and live in Britain, in some cases, actually, Britain has to call for people from, say, the West Indies to come and work here because they're coming out of the Second World War. They've lost a generation of young people. they need young people from other parts of the world to come and work here. So by 1948, they have the first group of people arrive from the West Indies, and these are who we today call the Windrush generation. It is now very clear that the Windrush generation, even though they contributed massively to building of some aspects of British culture and British life, they have never really been fully welcome. And that is clear as we speak today. We know of many who are being deported, many who are being asked to prove that they have lived here for 50 years, when they have actually lived here for 50 years. But the system just wants to be hostile. Now, so late 40s, West Indians, early 50s, Asians, India and Pakistan. A lot of people come from those two countries to Europe, to the UK. By the time we hit the 60s and 70s, West Africans are beginning to appear in Britain in growing numbers. And the 90s, we begin to see East Africans, Malawians, Zimbabweans. And so that migration of East Africans picked up around 2006. It's now going down, but still people are able to migrate. Overall, I would say the British migrated to the rest of the world. And when the world showed up in Britain, the British were never happy. You're coming in to take our resources, you're coming in to take our jobs, you're coming in to do all these things. And what that means is, we need to understand, as mostly East Africans, Malawians, we need to understand that what happens with the Windrush generation, what happens with the EU, I mean the Brexit, is really grounded on the issues of migration. Right? It's Britain saying we want to control who comes in and who goes out. And really at the end of the day is let's get the Poles out of Britain. What happens with the Windrush generation, who have even until today to prove that they belong here? And what happens with the Poles who have to go back to mainland Europe because they are no longer really welcome here? That danger still hangs on us as Africans, West Africans, East Africans. We are not safe. We're not immune. The same attitudes. When people run out of enemies, they keep looking for new enemies. We have. Okay, kick out the Windrush generation and kick out the Poles. Who next? The Africans, right? And so we need to have a sense of a home. We need to know, we need to raise our children well aware that while they are here, they also have a home somewhere. And that home may be necessary one day. Am I making sense? West Africans, who have been here much longer than East Africans. West Africans have been here since the 1940s, right? West Africans have certain cultural distinctives that make them unique in a way that they can try to fit in, but they also, you enter into a house of a Nigerian, you know that you have entered the house of a Nigerian, right? They have a culture that's so strong that keeps them together, that keeps them unique, that gives them a unique identity. East Africans don't really have that. And a good example for that is just our dressing. West Africans, they have their own typical cultural dressing. Most East Africans don't have that. it's now that we're beginning to say, okay, this is Ngoni dressing, right? And you see people, it's becoming fashionable again. This is a Leyman dressing, I don't know how that looks. This is a Yawa dressing, I don't know how that looks, right? We try to look as probably British as possible, right? We do not have serious cultural identities that make us really stand out as a people, as a tribe. And that makes it easy when we are here to forget where we're coming from. It makes it easier for us to fit in to the extent that our home begins to disappear. That we, yes, we are here, but we have left everything back home, and home isn't home anymore. And I tell you, the British government knows that. That is why they normally prefer to bring in nurses from East Africa or from West Africa. Right? They know that nurses from West Africa will stick to their identity. Nurses from East Africa, Malawi, Zimbabwe, they will be shaped into whatever they want them to be as quickly as possible. Now, the issue that we need to wrestle with as Africans, as East Africans living in Britain today is what happens with our children. And the main problem is this. We can be happy to have taken them out of Africa with all its struggles and with all its economic problems and everything that's going on in the continent at the moment. And I'll be the first one to admit that the continent needs help, right? But while they grow up here, there comes a day, one day, after they've finished primary school maybe, a day comes when they actually begin to realize that I don't belong here. We see this when you talk to young Africans growing up in Britain. At a very young age, they are generally happy to be, I'm British, right? Just like everybody else. I'm British. My daughter comes home one day and says, the boys in my class said I'm brown, and she's 5 years old. Said I'm brown, and they said I'm black, and I told them I'm brown, right? But I don't understand why they have to talk about that. And yes, at that age, she's happy to identify as British. I'm just from here like everybody else. But when they grow up, when they go to secondary school, they begin to see the differences. They begin to realize that they're treated a bit differently. And so, yes, they are British, but they're not as British as everybody. When they go to college, it's even more visible. You look around the staff, you don't really see many black people. You realize that we're living in a different world. And by the time they finish college, they are, generally, they are saying, I'm an African. But they don't know where in Africa they really belong. They've never really been there. And that journey from I'm British as a kid to actually I don't really belong here. These people don't accept me as one of them. And that creates a problem where now, where do they belong? Do they belong here? Do they belong in Africa? Do they belong to Malawi? Do they belong to Britain? And a healthy way to deal with that is to actually say, you are both, right? You are both. And you have to find ways to belong to both, right? You will be a stranger in both places. I mean, even as a grown-up Malawian, you go to Malawi after living in the UK for 10 years, you are a stranger in your own country, right? How about kids that have been born and grown up here? The most difficult thing for a people to deal with is to not know where they belong. Right? Is to have no history. Is to say, my grandparents were in Malawi. My parents are from Malawi, but I don't know where that is. Right? And here, you live in a culture that will always remind you that you don't belong here. And so, one of the things that we really need to pass on to our children is just to help them understand where they are coming from. This is an issue. As you heard, I spent a few years in the United States. And one of the main challenges that I saw with African Americans is that me as an African, I can claim I have a home in Africa. I can decide to pack up and go to Africa anytime. My African American friends, no matter what happens, they are stuck. That's home. Right? And it's just this, I have a home somewhere. And I plead with you. Your children have to know that they have a home somewhere. Someday will come when they will need that home. Am I making sense? Pass to them your history. Where do you come from? How did you get here? Pass to them aspects of your culture. Let them know, against what they see on TV, against what they hear in classes, against what they read in some books, let them know that Africa is a good place. That African culture is not all bad. That Africans are actually good people. Take away the images of Africa as a land where people live in trees. And I mean, people still talk about that in schools, yeah? People still try to make our kids believe that in Africa we don't have houses. And take away that image. Let them have something to be proud of. That to be African is not something to be ashamed of. And that they can own that identity. Well, you need, and this is my final point. We live in a culture, globally speaking, where to be black is to be poor, and to be suspicious, and to be unwanted, and to be all these things. Okay? That's just the general life that we live in. As black people, we taken to live at the bottom of the social ladder. I've seen it, not just here, I've seen it all over the world. That blackness has political implications. It has an impact on how our kids grow up, how our kids understand themselves. I mean, our women, they have to bleach their skins to really feel like, I'm beautiful. Let's tell our kids that's not necessary. You can be black and beautiful and successful and rich and everything. Right? The narratives that we get that equate blackness to desperation don't make sense. And don't let them settle in with your kids. People will say civilization started in Africa. To be here today, as black people, we have survived a lot. We are strong, and we will make it. And so, back to my 3 points. We're living in a strange land. Don't forget where we're coming from. Don't let our children forget where we are coming from. Let's keep reminding them. Let them know they have a home. We have history, we have cultures, we have all these things. Let us pass them on to our children. If we do not do that, we lack we risk the danger of raising up kids who don't know where they belong. Kids without an identity. And a kid without identity is somebody that you can shape into whatever you want them to be. And believe you me, there are people in this world who will be happy to do that for you. And so let us be intentional about actually helping our children understand who they are, understand where they're coming from, understand their potential, understand how far they can go, and let us help them get there. Thank you.
Yeah, let's give a massive hand of applause to Dr. Kwiyani. To be honest, I cannot add anything what he said. That's just what we try to teach our children. I cannot add.
Thank you so much for watching. My name is Charles Leyman Kachitsa. For further information, visit our website www.framesheritagemalawi.co.uk. You can email us on info@framesheritagemalawi.co.uk, or you can also find us on Facebook, on our Facebook page, on Twitter, or on other social media.